stealing that from me?
I was just trying to, I'm just keeping it real. I'm just trying to change things up.
Well, I was about to say, welcome to BullCast Podcast. I'm Katie Pickler, and with me is my partner in crime court, but with me is my looking for a new co-host.
Well, how about I am your partner in crime, because I just stole that opening from you.
Oh, Lord.
Booyah! There's the opening bell. Okay, so speaking of crime, today we're talking about cybercrime. Well, okay, technically, I guess more like cybersecurity, or at least partially cybersecurity, right, Katie?
Yeah, okay, so last time we talked about our digital footprint and why those pesky ads show up on your Facebook because you've put something in your cart on a totally different website. And really about your reputation and what's out there in the digital world.
Bad reputation.
How a tweet can mess up your career and just all that things. And how literally everything is online. Mm-hmm. Dad joke. Okay, I guess it wasn't that funny. So today
They never are, Katie. Trust me, I'm a dad.
So we're going to go a little bit deeper. We are going to talk about a little bit of the risk. And so that is cybersecurity and digital death.
Okay, so this time really you say we're going a little bit deeper. We're going a lot darker.
Darker.
Yeah.
Light side and dark side, okay?
Yeah.
We're on the dark side. Okay, Darth Court.
Okay.
Tell them what our top 5 is going to be.
Our
today.
top 5 is going to be hacker / cybersecurity movies, with a bonus one for me because there's one that's not a movie, but I'm going to throw it in there anyway. But yeah, so hacker movies, cybersecurity movies, basically. Why don't you get us going?
Okay. My first one would be The Net with Sandra Bullock.
Yes.
She was a computer programmer, and pretty much her digital identity was completely erased.
Yeah, this movie was at the height of her first, she had like a big bump of she was the hot commodity. She was the it girl in Hollywood, and this was right in there during that. And then she sort of fell off for a while, and then of course she came back later
As
with
Miss
The Blind
Congeniality.
Side. And
Oh, okay, or that one.
Yeah. So, but yes, great movie. I don't know, but very, very interesting concept at the time that it came out. Very interesting.
Yeah. So my next one would be Enemy of the State, Gene Hackman, Will Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the one with, I think Gene Hackman goes through everything possible to try and track Will Smith using all possible
satellite
outlets.
footage. I mean, I can't remember
Cameras,
what all.
everything.
Yeah, cameras. If he could hack into or break into a video feed or whatever. But the snag was that Gene Hackman wasn't really so much a hacker as he was just like a bad guy that was on inside the government and was using all of the government tools he had to track down.
Okay, it's
Will
the whole
Smith.
thing of you have all these tools, but it's like who's in control of the tools.
Yeah.
Number 3, Swordfish. This was John Travolta, Hugh Jackman, and Halle Berry.
I don't know much about this movie, Katie.
No, most people just remember this as the one that was very scandalous for Halle Berry.
Yes.
And, but
What'd she do, Katie?
She showed her birthday suit for sure. But this was, the CIA involved, and a hacker came out of jail. John Travolta was a big hacker.
All I can remember about John Travolta in this movie is he had a really gross-looking soul patch.
He did, and the long hair. Yep.
And you put that schmarmy John Travolta along with Halle Berry, and you just get the oogies. It was just oogie.
The oogies?
Yeah, oogie.
Okay. Let's see. Number 4 for me would be The Dark Knight. Now, go with me on this one. I know we've talked about Batman movies a lot.
Yes, we have.
I'm specifically, because we were talking about hacking, and when we first started talking about the Gene Hackman one, I thought back to, which Batman was that where he gets access to the cell phone towers and is able to utilize this, and Alfred's like, you need to destroy this. Yeah. You do not need to have this.
Yeah.
So that's an example of a great software that in the wrong hands could be terrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, my next one, I have a feeling this is my last one. I feel like Cam may end up stealing this one from me. The Social Network.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, you've mentioned that before, that you love that movie.
Am I allowed to talk during top
You
fives?
can talk.
So am I taking your...
You are taking...
I get to take her number 1. So Social Network, I love that movie. Directed by David Fincher.
Oh, he knows all the facts.
Yes. I love the look. He did Benjamin Button, which is one of my favorite films. He did
one.
Seven. He's got
you're going to take advantage of the fact that you're in our top 5, and you're just going to start throwing out
Give
all
me
your
10
favorite
minutes for this one. No, it's a great one.
Okay, Cameron, trying to wrap it up.
Okay, I'm wrapping up.
Cameron's always telling us to wrap up our top 5, so I feel like revenge. We get to wrap
Just
you
give
up.
me that signal. But yeah, I don't know if it falls in the hacker or the nerdy character, but Mark Zuckerberg comes up with Facebook and he writes the algorithm on his window at Harvard, and then he has his friends do a hackathon trying to break the system. But it's great. Remember the trailer with the Radiohead cover by the boys choir?
Oh yeah,
so
it was
good.
great music in that movie.
Okay, wrap it up, Cameron.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so I guess that's on to me in my top 5. Well, my number 5 is going to be the all-time classic hacker movie for me, at least personally. That is, of course, War Games. I think I brought it up before when we talked about fortresses, because this is the first time that I was ever introduced to NORAD, the fortress in the mountain. And of course, War Games is Matthew Broderick plays a hacker who hacks into a government computer that is in control of all of the United States of America's nuclear warheads.
So that makes sense because he really got his start in Ferris Bueller when he was hacking into the school system to change his attendance.
Oh my God.
It's full circle.
It's so big. Actually, I think War Games came out before Ferris Bueller.
Really?
I think so. I could be wrong on that. I don't know. War Games was Matthew Broderick and Ali Sheedy, a very young Ali Sheedy. Anyway, so yeah.
Oh, and
Breakfast Club.
And then he played Inspector Gadget, who was basically hacked himself. He became a robot.
Crazy. And ladies and gentlemen, there is my top 5, because I'm pretty sure we just threw out 5 movies. No, I'll go through the rest of them really quick. Okay, this is actually one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time, but it's also kind of a hackery movie. Obviously, they have to go up to hacking level to hack into the Matrix. That's right, the Matrix. Man, it is an awesome movie.
I know Kung Fu.
And they're coming out with a new one.
Forgive me, folks out there in listening land, if I have said this before. Let me just tell you this story real quick again, because it's worth retelling. I remember The Matrix and The Phantom Menace were coming out close to the same time. They were basically within the same year of each other. And everybody was so psyched about The Phantom Menace. Oh, there's finally going to be another Star Wars movie. Oh, it's going to be so amazing. And The Matrix and The Phantom Menace, and they come out, and The Matrix just blew me away. It just absolutely blew my mind. And I was like, The Phantom what? I don't even... it was crazy.
I remember watching the Matrix when it came to VHS. I was a child, and it was one of those movies where you're like, I have never seen anything like this. It's different.
Yeah.
With the bullet time.
Oh gosh,
it was groundbreaking.
Yeah, the Wachowski brothers did it was ridiculous what they did. I had never seen anything like it before. Okay, so my next one is, and guys, these are not necessarily listed in order of what I think is the best, obviously, because my number 3 is another, what I'd like to think of as kind of a hacking movie. It's called Weird Science.
Oh, yes.
Where they hack into a government computer again and use it to create a woman, a dream woman. And I'm really not sure in terms of political correctness how well this movie holds up, but I quote it all the time. There are so many lines that I have in my repertoire of like things that I say that come straight from Weird Science, including "Give me the keys." And so if you ever hear me say that, that's where that comes from. Anyway, he doesn't even have his license, Lisa. Okay, moving on. Next for me would be Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And I'm talking about the Swedish version of this film.
Not the David Fincher version?
Not the American version of the film. I assume based on that you actually like the David Fincher version.
I actually don't.
Oh, okay. Okay. I prefer the Swedish version. Obviously, Stieg Larsson was a Swedish author who wrote the book originally, and so the Swedish film just it feels a little bit more like the book that Stieg Larsson wrote. And then finally, my number 1. This is my surprise, not a film, hacker TV show, Mr. Robot. It is a mind-twisting, weird show that absolutely blows your mind at the end of the first season and then continues to wrap you around its little fingers for another 3 seasons after that. And I'm not going to lie to you, I actually haven't finished it yet, but it is...
Is the lead in that the one that played Freddie Mercury?
Yes.
Rami
Okay.
Malek.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same guy. Same guy.
Well, I do want to clarify. I did do a little searching. Sorry, Court, I wasn't listening to you. But yes, you're right. War Games was in '83 and Ferris Bueller was in '86. So
See?
yeah.
I could tell you, in my mind's eye, I was just picturing Matthew Broderick in both, and he just looks younger to me when I picture him in War Games than he looked when he was in Ferris Bueller. He practically looked like a grown man in Ferris Bueller compared to what he looked like in War Games. And there's my top 5. Okay, so moving on from the top 5, Katie, what time is it? It is time for some noshings, time for some food, time for some snacks, time for some
Meat and potatoes.
meat and potatoes.
Okay, so I do just want to throw out there, we kind of were ragging a little bit about digital footprint last time and how it's bad and be careful what you say and it's your digital reputation. And then we're going to kind of get into some scary stuff, darker stuff with this episode. But social media online presence, it's not all bad. Reconnecting with loved ones, finding other people that are going through difficult times like you. I'm reminded of this movie. I don't know if it came out a couple of years ago, and I don't think it was very popular, but it was the guy from Harold and Kumar was in it. He played the dad, and then Deborah Messing was in it as the officer, and it's all shot from the computer's view. And it is this dad whose child has gone missing, and it's him going through his kid's computer trying to piece together where his kid has gone, and the police are just like giving up. They're like, oh, I don't know, but he's able to like go onto their Facebook page, go on different things that are bookmarked and saved on his computer, and it's just crazy how he's able to figure out this problem just from what digital footprint was left. So gotta throw out, there's some positive there. Okay.
Oh yeah. So basically what you're saying is it's the interwebs are good because if your child ever goes missing, you should be able to find them from Facebook.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't just Facebook. It was websites. And as we learned last time that you're tracking me on my Snapchat map.
Not intentionally. I was doing it on accident, and I noticed you've gone ghost mode since then.
See, you have noticed. Okay. Let's talk about cybersecurity. I really thought this was a made-up word several years ago when I first heard it, when my brother told me that he was trying out to be a master's in cybersecurity. And I was like, what is this? So the definition of cybersecurity, it is the practice of protecting systems, networks, and programs from digital attacks. These cyber attacks are usually aimed at accessing, changing, or destroying sensitive information, extorting money from users, or interrupting normal business procedures. So it's not fun.
Well, I mean, I think hackers that hack have fun hacking.
Well, yeah.
I think some of them do it on a lark.
But, everyone can benefit from cybersecurity, and where this shows how much things have changed in technology, because just 10 years ago, it was a big up and coming thing. And now it is something everybody, individuals, corporations, everyone has to have some form of cybersecurity to make sure they're protecting themselves from identity theft, extortion, attempts to get this information and use it against them.
Yeah, we have, listen, our broker dealer has a whole cybersecurity plan, a whole information security policy. And it is very in depth. And, so we have things that we have to do, because our broker dealer requires it of us. And, we have to have a cybersecurity plan ourselves, and everything that we do has to be encrypted. And we have to have, there are all sorts of measures that we take. This whole industry is just a huge, huge industry. Yeah,
and it's like you'll hear in the news over time, it's like, okay, well, Uber or Target, I remember Target cards got hacked. Their system got hacked, and so you had to go in there and change your passwords, and some people had to get new credit cards. I was watching this new show called The Bold Ones, and they work for a women's magazine, and their system got hacked, which, it released where they were making fun of each other, their coworkers, making fun of designers. But then the real issue was they were working on undercover stories, and now those people they were trying to protect, those notes were out in the open because the hackers released it all. Do y'all remember the Ashley Madison breach?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So a website that's supposed to be all discreet, and I think it was cheating on people? Is that
Well,
what the
I mean,
whole premise was?
the whole basis for the website was it was a dating website for people who were looking to cheat.
Yeah.
And it was all done on the down low. So
Except when it's been breached and
yeah.
it's public knowledge.
yeah, and so they breached it and then released that list. And I mean, that's part of any cybersecurity policy now is not just how to prevent the hack, but what to do. We have a policy. Our company has a policy for what happens if we're hacked. What happens if our broker dealer is hacked? What steps do you take? But then you've got all of this stuff in place to prevent the hacking from ever happening. It's a tremendous like I said, it's a tremendous area.
Yeah, so some of the types of security, cybersecurity threats out there, the phishing emails, and this is phishing PH.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who are probably work in a larger company, you have those testing phishing emails that may come out and it's such and such, your bank account's been compromised, click this link here.
Yeah.
And it's wanting you to do that, which then actually is sending your information to somebody else. So it's always, find your court in your office. And that's what I do. I'm like, or your CAM. I'm like, CAM, this looks fishy. Here, look at this for me.
Yeah, if you get an email basically that says, here, we need you to do something to confirm your information, and here's the link, and you click on the link, and they're like, now enter in your username and password.
Or your social security number.
Yeah, or your credit card number. These are all attempts to gain that information. And you can, they're basically throwing a line out there and seeing if they can get you to take their bait and give them effectively give them your information.
Well, and the thing is they're smart. That's what cybersecurity is, something that it is. We talk about, well, I'll be relevant with what's going on right now. We talk about the pandemic and this virus going on and how it keeps mutating.
But Katie, we don't bring up the pandemic.
Well, there's a point.
Okay.
Cybersecurity is the same thing, because as soon as the good guys essentially figure out how to beat these hackers, there's 10 more hackers that are going to pop up with a whole new way to do it. And so that's where you're constantly having to train the good guys to look out for this. But we're all having to look a little sketch at things and go, does this look right? Because I wouldn't think twice if I got an email from Target or something like that. But they would know that if they send me an email that looks like it's from Target. You sit there and click, and you know how it shows up and says, oh, this is from court. Mm-hmm. But then if you click on it, it may say it's from alien x2y2 at yahoo.com. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so that's where you've got to just kind of, if it looks funky and it's asking you for something, just check or pick up the phone and call and be like, Court, were you really asking for my credit card number?
Yeah, I got an email the other day, and the email said, all it showed was a person's name. And it was basically, the person's name, and then inside the email it said, hey, can you check back with me about something? And the email address, when I opened the email address was very close to the email address of the person that I knew, but it wasn't exactly the same. And so I emailed that person and said, hey, do you have a new email address, or was this, somebody that you don't know, or some sort of hack attempt? And
this is a perfect time for me to segue with this, is in our business, if you were to email us and say, hey, transfer all my money into my bank account you have on file, or make this trade, we have to pick up the phone and call you and verify, because we don't know if someone has taken your phone and said that and they've got access to your bank account and they're just wanting to try and get us to move the money there. Yeah. So that's we try and make sure we're protecting ourselves if you get hacked as well.
We cannot take instructions for stuff like that via email. We have to have oral verification. Mm-hmm. There's a box we have to check that says, yes, we have verified this orally. So don't get mad at us. It's part of the requirement.
So, the other threats, you've got the ransomware, malicious software that can be downloaded if you go to some of those sketchy websites.
You accidentally click on a link or open an email, and all of a sudden your computer is locked down. Mm-hmm. And basically, you get a message on your screen. You can't close out the message, and it says, send $1 billion in Bitcoin to this address, or you'll never get into your computer again.
I remember back in the day in college, I got sent to one of the dean's offices because I had LimeWire on my computer, because that's what you had. That's where you got your music. I didn't realize that I had downloaded something that I shouldn't have had on there, like it was some illegal file. And then when I logged onto the university's Wi-Fi, it showed this LimeWire account with, I think I got in trouble for like a Taylor Swift song and a Britney Spears song or something on there
my
that I
Lord.
didn't
How
have the correct
embarrassing.
license. Exactly. I didn't have the correct licensing for it and got, hit for it. But
Oh gosh.
that's back in the dark ages.
Malware.
Yeah.
Malware is another one. And really, honestly, malware is one of those things that I don't understand exactly what the goal of malware ever was, other than to just junk up my computer. Whenever I got malware, it's been a long time since I had any, but whenever I used to get malware, it seemed like it was always just, I would open the internet and try to go to a website, and all of a sudden I would just have ad after ad after ad popping up on my screen, and I couldn't get it to go away. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's social engineering. There's so much out there, and so we told you all these threats. How to protect yourself. Antiviral protection. There's all different kinds of computer systems you can put on laptops, all of that. Cloud security, firewalls, VPNs. The list continues on and on and on of just all different technological things that are way above my head of what you need. I always just, like I said, my brother's in cybersecurity. And I always call him and ask him, what did I do? What did I screw up now?
Well, for instance, okay, so a VPN would be basically, it's kind of like a dedicated network, but it's a virtual network, so that you can get from one computer that's in a distant location to another in some other separated location. But it is effectively a closed network connection between those 2 points. So it just offers you that security so that you can't get in. Obviously,
so we're really not that far off from being in the Matrix.
I mean,
Or like that Robbie and Mel show that...
Robbie and Mel show. I don't know.
Robbie and Mel. Isn't that his last name? Emil
Hirsch? What are we talking about?
Cameron hasn't been paying attention. He's not going to be able to bail you out on this one. You're just going to have to come up with it yourself.
It was the show where it's when you pass away, you got the opportunity to upload. It was called Upload.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a great show.
I've never watched it, but somebody told me about it.
That you literally are uploading your spirit into the cloud, essentially. Yeah. And if you're rich, you get to go to the fancy cloud. If you're not, you get to go to the poor cloud.
Okay, off we go on another tangent. So back to what we were talking about.
What does the average man need to know? Because we, unless you are in the cybersecurity world where you're protecting large companies and all of that, what do you, as an average listener, need to know of how to protect yourself, your personal stuff?
Well, and also to a degree, your company as well.
Yeah.
The companies that you work for out there that are involved and that have computer networks and that have a web presence, they have these policies that are annoying as heck, but they're there for a reason. They're there to protect them. They're there to protect the company. They're there to protect you. So you're protecting yourself personally, and you're protecting your employer as well. So what's the first one?
Password managers.
Yes.
It is so important to try and keep up with your passwords. And
because you have to have so many, and we'll get to why, but you have to have so many.
Yeah, and you've got to have them complex. And this is something definitely I learned from my brother, that you can't have those simple ones. You can't have your names in it. You've got to have numbers and exclamation points and all kinds of craziness with it, because it's got to be difficult that someone couldn't just go, oh, okay, you were born in November, Scorpio, that's your password. Like, it's got to be complex.
Yeah.
I am very guilty of this, and I actually, when researching, noticed this. If you've got an iPhone, you go into where you have passwords saved, if you have any already saved, it'll actually alert you and say, you have used this password on multiple sites. Or this one has a potential of being breached, or you've repeated this 20 times now. Yeah. And the other one I'm really bad about, and I bet a bunch of you are as well, and it's hard that I'm personally going to try and start breaking. You get onto these websites now, and it's like you can create a username, or you can log on through Facebook. And it's, well, heck, I've already logged into Facebook. Let's just click this. Let's make it easier. Okay, well then what happens is, if, say, you're logging on to HelloFresh and you're using it through your Facebook. Well, then if HelloFresh gets hacked, then it now is hacked, but it also has your login for your Facebook. But then you also used your Facebook account to log on to, a shopping place that has a credit card on file. And it's a little circle that just goes crazy. And
so basically, bottom line is, as obnoxious as it is, you're supposed to use a different password and even a different username for all of your websites and for everything that you frequent. And that's why something like a password manager is key. It's so important. This will be either an app or a program on your computer or an app on your phone that stores your passwords, your usernames and your passwords by website. It's secure. You have to have a password to get into it. If not, if not Face ID or thumbprint ID. And actually, that's another one of the things that we have, that is a key step. A lot of websites and stuff are offering people the option of using two-factor verification, but it's not a requirement. And one of the things that you can do to protect yourself is to use that two-factor verification. I was complaining to our IT guy the other day. I said, I hate two-factor verification. I hate having to get a text with a verification number every time I want to log into a website. And he was like, yeah, but it's super
protected.
ultra secure, so.
It's what you got to do. Well, so there is a lot, and I'm not expecting you to be able to protect yourself 100%. Breaches are going to happen. Hacks are going to happen. Just try and make sure that you're aware of where all your information is and that you try and update those passwords and don't do, your name and your birthday or something like that as your passwords. Make them a little bit more complex and figure out what works for you.
Yes. Okay.
So
here's a little hint that somebody gave me that I'll just, as our closing out of this little section, a hint for doing complex passwords. Come up with a sentence that or a phrase or something that and you like or whatever. So it could be something like, I met my current wife at the antenna club in 1987! Exclamation point. And then you take the first letter of every single one of those words and you make, and you add in 1987, and then you've got yourself a password that's letters. Basically, they look like random letters and numbers plus a random character. And you've got yourself a pretty complex password. So if you've never tried that before and you want to come up with a complex password, that is a way to do it. Moving on.
Okay. What happens to your online accounts after you die?
That was a change of direction. That was a change of gear. That was a change of everything. But yes, the other thing that we are going to dedicate this episode to is
digital death.
Yeah, digital death, sort of digital assets, afterlife, digital assets, and what's going to happen to them.
Yeah, I mean, our daily lives are governed and helped along by our digital assets. It follows what we're doing, and it shows that, that's where all of our tangible things are out there. We've recorded, we've celebrated, we've had memories, we've had milestones, and it's all out there, and we need to back it up. We need to know what's going to happen to it. And nowadays, so much is online. It's not just the pictures, it's important documents. I mean, there's DocuSign and Dropbox and Google Docs and all of this. I do have to give an example that I am, in addition to being a financial advisor, I'm also an event planner on the side, and I am working with a bride who...
You've never mentioned that before.
I've got a bride that's getting married in a couple months, and her catering company is a sweet little mom and pop shop, and I've been emailing them and couldn't get a hold of them. Found out that she was very sick and passed away. And the catering company the remaining people there cannot get into her computer. And her computer and her email were the sole one that has all the correspondence with the brides, has the calendar of events, everything. So they have been scrambling trying to figure out what to do.
So, back to that whole password manager thing, one of the options that you have for access to your digital assets is having a password manager and having multiple users of one password manager, or at least somebody else that knows your login to that password manager, so that they could potentially get what your username and passwords are. Now, we are going to get to there's a big element of this is, those tiny word paragraphs that you have to click accept to at the beginning
all
of
the legal jargon that we all skip past.
Yeah.
Because did you know your online stuff doesn't belong to you?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that like right up on the front end that a lot of people don't know is just by sharing your username and password with someone else, even if it's on a free account like Facebook, you could be violating Facebook's terms and conditions. So, just by sharing that, you could be violating Facebook's terms and conditions. So just imagine what you're violating if it's something that's not free, like Netflix, and you go out there and share that username and password. But there is actually, because of that, because there is this element of people not being able to gain access to Facebook accounts and email accounts. And because all of these different digital empires like Facebook and Google have these policies that say, hey, you can't give this stuff out to people. And then they have this policy that says, hey, if you die, nobody else can have access to this. There was a push to pass laws that sort of govern access to your digital assets if something happens to you. It's called the revised, I'm sorry, it's a big legal long...
Court's in session.
Yeah. Revised Uniform Fiduciary Access to Digital Assets Act. Okay.
Woo!
So basically, somebody created this proposed law that they said, here, we need to do this law so that we'll have law that governs when people can access your stuff after you pass away.
Okay.
Somebody wrote that, and then they took it to all of the 50 states and said, here, you should pass this. And this way there will be rules about when someone can access someone else's digital stuff. And most of the states have now passed some version of that act. So there is now, in most states, a law that governs the quote-unquote fiduciary access to digital assets. And by that, I mean someone's access to your assets should you pass away. That fiduciary person, like for instance, the executor of your will, they are a fiduciary. And
okay.
So there's laws out there that will now give people access to that stuff that didn't used to be, those laws didn't used to exist. Now they do.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you think about it, you've got all this stuff, and now even more so, everything's going online, paying your bills. It's, I got a letter in the mail from the state the other day that it's like, hey, we don't have an email on file for you. We need your email because we're going paperless. And it's like, so they're taking everything to be electronic. And so it's awareness. It's making sure your family and close trusted friends know what accounts you have, including the online bill paying and banking, making sure the family is financially aware of what's out there. And, there's something about you keep your financial documents. You think about your wills. Okay, that's usually like you put that in a safe or something like that. But, Court, tell them about that little handy-dandy little keychain thing we have.
Okay, so one of the things that we do, and that I think probably a lot of other, well, maybe not a lot of other people do, but we have an in case of emergency key, and it's basically it's a USB flash drive that has your important power of attorney documents on it. We would never recommend that somebody put their will on it, for instance, but it helps if you have something like this. And ours actually looks like a key, but you can plug it into a computer and pull up your power of attorney documents. And, based on that law that I was talking about a minute ago, now one of the things that we would put in anybody's power of attorney document is language that allows someone else to access their digital assets on their behalf if they cannot because they're incapacitated. So you've got this cool little tiny digital device that you can plug into a computer that brings up your documents if someone else needs to act on your behalf, but they can't because you're passed out or knocked out or whatever. You've got these documents that say, hey, this person can speak for me right there. Now, in addition to that, there are other things out there that you could consider having, like highly encrypted thumb drives. Basically, it's a flash drive, but it's got password protection, like high level password protection on it. There are companies that produce these. They're a little bit more expensive than your normal thumb drive, but you could put highly classified information on these thumb drives and protect it. So you could have a thumb drive with all of your passwords and all of your account names and stuff like that on it, and even highly personal documents, highly confidential documents, and it's password protected. And if someone else tries to break into this thumb drive, there's one that literally, if you enter a password, an incorrect password too many times, the thumb drive basically fries itself. It's straight out of Mission Impossible.
Oh, wow.
So there are ways that you could have your information. You could have it available to someone who knows how to access that device, But at the same time, it's still protected because if it's not the person that you gave access to the device, somebody else just trying to break in, chances are they're going to destroy it.
Yeah, it's just kind of, we've unfortunately seen this before where it's been like one spouse, maybe the one that pays the bills or has access to the important stuff, and the other one doesn't really care about it and knows it's taken care of. But you want to have that peace of mind of having like that knowledge that if something was to happen, if someone was to get hit by a bus, you would be able to take on those responsibilities for them, and it wouldn't be a long drawn out process of trying to get access to those accounts to try and just as simple as pay your water bill.
Right.
And so it's one of those that if you are in a relationship where one person is paying the majority of things, at least even if it's a post-it note that you stick in your safe that has the passwords to things, something even as minimal as that, do that to make sure you're protected. So that's on kind of the real serious side. Now let's talk about the social media side of it, because this was very interesting to me, how when someone passes away, their Facebook, let's talk with that one.
Mm-hmm.
If you go on Facebook now, you can actually have an option for you to memorialize your account. You turn your wall into a page where people can leave comments, and Facebook themselves needs a death certificate to create this. Then I came about this when, do y'all remember, I guess a month ago when Facebook logged everybody out and everyone's still trying to figure out exactly what happened with that. Mm-hmm. But I remember seeing people going, oh, check your settings. This is what happened, blah, blah, blah. And I remember going in there and finding out there is a thing on there called account ownership. You go in there and figure out your control levels. And do you want it to be memorialized when something happens to you, or do you want it to completely delete? And you can actually go in there and add a trusted individual that is allowed to take over your Facebook when you pass away, which is just crazy to me to think about it. But there's so much that's on your social media. There's some statistic out there right now that says by
the year 2100.
Thank you. I'm like looking, I'm like, how do I say this? 2100?
By 2100.
By 21, yeah.
By the year 2100.
Thank you, Court. There will be 4.9 billion dead users on Facebook.
That's a lot.
That's
a lot.
And we were talking about this, and you think about it, unfortunately, when someone does pass away, it's like, it's right there. That last post they did, that last silly profile picture they put up. And so I'm sure as a loved one, if you're seeing that, like, you're going to want to go and change that and make it not be the picture of them doing duck lips or something ridiculous. Like, you want to put it a better picture.
Does anybody want duck lips as their last picture? I mean, really?
So, I mean, that's how Facebook handles. Twitter, it can be deactivated, but no one can take it over for you. Dropbox needs a death certificate. Google and Gmail, they need a death certificate on top of additional legal documentation.
Okay, so, but we're certainly not holding ourselves out to be cybersecurity experts. No. We just get into this because we have a lot of clients that ask us, hey, what do you do? What happens if somebody tries to hack you? What happens if somebody tries to hack, your broker dealer? So we get that question a lot, and this is kind of us just saying like, hey, we know these are issues. These are some of the things that you can do, but we're not the cybersecurity experts. So
no, not at all. It's, we're a mom and pop firm, and it's one of those that we try and get involved in our clients' lives, and we want to try and assist them with these things. So yeah, as Court said, this is just stuff that comes about, and we were curious about it, but it's just awareness of knowing what to do when someone passes away.
Yeah, and so there are some places that people could go to get more information if they want, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure there's tons of legal sites that have that. There's even some websites called digitaldeath.com. Their slogan is, because on the internet you can live forever.
It's just so creepy. So yeah, okay. So you were saying, you're going to go and hopefully everybody that listens to us either has or will be going to set up an estate plan.
Yes, please.
Okay. And so when we say estate plan, your basic estate plan would include not only a last will and testament, which is what happens after you pass away, but also, like I mentioned earlier, the power of attorney. You've got your financial power of attorney and your healthcare power of attorney, right?
So who can control your money and who can determine when to pull the plug?
Yeah, basically. I mean, who's going to make your health decisions?
And let me throw this nugget in there. Even though you are married to someone does not mean you have legal authority to sign for them for healthcare. Is that correct, Court?
Well, okay. So, yeah. Oh, gosh. On the healthcare side, it gets complicated because there's next of kin, and if you're in a hospital and you cannot tell the doctors what to do, then they're going to go and they're going to look for next of kin to make a decision. And if you are married, then that spouse could be the person that makes the decision. The problem is if you have a spouse and a very protective mom and they start fighting about what to do with you, that's when having a document that designates one person as the key person is really important. Or if you have someone who is a longtime partner, but you're not married, but you want that person making decisions for you. Well, they're not related to you. They're not next of kin. So if you want that person making decisions for you, you would have the power of attorney. Yep. So, last will and testament, power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, financial power of attorney. Those are the documents that you would definitely want to have. And the person that you designate in those documents is the person that you would be thinking about. Okay, who do I want handling my digital stuff as well?
Yes, you've got to throw that into the mix now. Who's handling my digital? And what's gonna happen to my cute little memes and stuff that I put on Facebook every day?
Yeah.
All right, we have thrown a lot. Are you ready to bullseye this up?
I'm ready to bullseye it up, down, left, and right, baby.
Okay, my bullseye is gonna go back to cybersecurity. It's, I know my brother has to change his password, I think, every time he blinks, and they're always like really complicated, ridiculous passwords. I'm not saying you need to do that, but get away from your basics of using your name and your birthday. Take a second and look at your phone, see which passwords you're reusing, update your passwords as needed, but really just make sure that you're protecting yourself. And if you get something that seems sketchy, go ahead and go and change your password. Protect yourself and just keep watching all of your stuff. Make sure you're in control to try and avoid getting hacked or being victim to something like that with cybersecurity.
Okay, and I'm going to roll right off of that. One of the things that you need to be considering is, as far as cybersecurity is concerned, and as far as your whole digital footprint, going way back to the very first part of the previous episode, you need to be considering who is going to manage that stuff for you if you can't manage it yourself. Who is going to be that quote-unquote fiduciary person that's in charge of your digital assets? Think about who you want to do that. Who do you want taking care of your Facebook if you can't do it? And make sure that person knows that you want them to be the one that's in charge of it. And make sure that you've taken the proper steps to designate that person, whether it's through clicking on a button in Facebook where you can designate somebody, or creating a durable power of attorney document that has language in it that specifically talks about your management of your digital assets. Make sure that you've taken that into consideration, because without granting someone that authority, it might be that nobody can help you. Whether it's just because you're incapacitated and nobody can get to your stuff, or because you've passed away and nobody can get to your stuff. Make sure you've got that. Make sure you've got that person. You know who it's going to be, and they know how they're going to access your stuff.
I feel like you were speaking to me with that one, because it's like, okay, Katie, quit being a control freak. Share. Let other people know. That's what I heard. That is what I got out of that.
Well, and that's pretty much the bullseye. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, there's the closing bell. You have made it to the end of yet another episode of the BullCast podcast. If this is the first time you've listened to us and you liked what you heard, there are so many other episodes that you could go back and listen to. So feel free to check out our website. You can find links to all of our episodes there, or you can download any one of our episodes from your favorite podcast subscription service. You can also leave any suggestion for a topic that you want on our website, or you can just read about me and Katie, because we wrote funny things about ourselves and put it up there too. If you'd like to see some pictures of us, Cameron loves to post really bad pictures of us on the Instagram. Our Instagram handle is @BullCastPodcast. And every now and then we'll tweet out something or let you know when a new episode is coming on Twitter. Our handle on Twitter is also @BullCastPodcast. And finally, we've talked about the fact that we work at a place called Pickler Wealth Advisors, a wealth advisory firm. And if you would like to find out more about our place of work, the team that we work with, and our boss, David Pickler, then feel free to go to picklerwealthadvisors.com. That's advisors with an O, not an E. Ladies and gentlemen, I have given you everything you need to live a full and complete life. So go forth, be merry, and I'll try to as well. But for now, my name is Court Winsett.
And I'm Katie, and we're on Audible.
Amen.